So today I've been diving into how the color drive behaves in the low end. And I'm not just talking about saturation here, but how it actually shapes low end energy and weight. Because one thing to boost bass, but as we all know, it's a whole other thing to get your low end feeling solid without eating a ton of headroom in your mix. So I'm trying to give you some presets that give you a good starting point where you're going to really hear the tube and transformer models interacting in the real-time circuit solver. You're going to get that harmonic movement that's going to shift dynamically with levels and not really feel like a static software saturator, because everything you're going to hear is real nonlinearity, just like you get in hardware. So let's dive in and I'll walk you through some of the things I've been working on. So the first preset I'm working on here is called an 808 sustainer. And this isn't about compression, although you're getting some soft compression from the tube. It's really the circuit naturally rounding out and holding the tail of the 808. So you hear it keep the note alive longer, but the transient stays clean, right? So that's just the transformer and tube doing their thing just like they would in hardware. Let's take a listen. So first, without it, then with. Right? So you hear how the extra harmonics in there bring that note alive and really give it some clarity. This is subtle stuff, but all these things add up when you're building it in a dense mix. And it's those higher harmonics that really allow you to hear the definition of the 808 while keeping that low end body. Now, right there, I had the calibration set to 0, so you're getting primarily odd order harmonics. You can crank that up and dial in some even order as well, and it's going to thicken it up even more. Take a listen. Without, with. Take a listen to how it takes a bit of that click off the transient as well. You hear that click? Oh, I turn it on? Right, nice, round, smooth punch on that transient. I love this. Next thing I'm working on is something I'm calling the Subdrop definer. And the goal with this is to get some more definition on a subdrop, especially, for cinematic subdrops and trailers, or maybe in some stuff like trap, where it's going to grab that low note and help focus it a bit more in the mix. And instead of something that's a little blurry in the mix, you're going to get something that translates a little better on smaller speakers. So let's take a listen. So first, here it is without. Right, so there's already some harmonics in this sub drop, but you hear it has that big woofy woo in the subs. I'm just going to add the color drive. Right, so now you get just a little bit more of the harmonic focus in the upper part of it, which is going to pop out of smaller speakers a little bit. I'll turn it off again. On. Right, you kind of hear that poke through. You can really change the impression with this just by playing with the crossover and the tilt frequency. Take a listen to this. I'm going to bring the crossover all the way down to 40. Right, completely different from this. And then also completely different from this. Right, so many color options just by playing with a couple of key parameters to shape those harmonics just right so they sit perfectly in your mix. Now the next preset is something I'm calling bass clarity, and this is on a bit more of the subtle side, but again where I feel that the color drive really shines. And this is to help bring the clarity and focus of that bass guitar forward and add just a little special something to it that brings the sound to life. Let's take a listen to this. So I'm starting with a pretty stock sounding funk bass that it sounds good, but feels like it could use a little something. Now kick it in. Without. With. Like I said, we're getting into some pretty self stuff with that one, but this is something that I think would be really great for if you have an amp sim that you're using and it feels just a little static. You just want to add a little extra life to it to make it feel a lot more like a real amp. Throw something like this on, and it's just going to add that little special flair to it that I think will just be perfect. Okay, these next two are kind of related. So one of them's bass DI Tube Color and the other one's bass DI Tube Drive. And they're both inspired by a very popular boutique California style vocal box, let's say, that's often used as a tube DI for bass, just to add a little extra roundness to a bass DI sound. So this first one, again, a little subtle, but take a listen to this. Without it. Now with. So you hear when I take it out, it just kinda gets a little more lifeless, feels a little flatter sounding. Again, another subtle one, and I'm about to do something that has a little more drive to it. But again, the subtlety of the color drive, I think, is where its strengths lie. Now for the next one, the bass DI tube drive. Same general inspiration, a little bit more grit, a little bit more growl. Again, another starting point. You could play with the mix, you could play with the crossover, you could play with the tilt filters to really dial this in for your own needs and your own mix. Again, I think a great starting point, and then you can take it and run with it. So again, a pretty typical pick bass DI sound. Let's play a little bit of it. That was kicking the color drive. It gives it just such a beautiful grit in the upper register of that bass, which I just love. So hopefully that gives you some ideas and some starting points on how to use color drive on some low-end material. Again, what I love about color drive is it's not always about adding saturation. It's about hearing the relationship of the tube and the transformer models interacting with your own material in real time. You feel the weight and the focus and that harmonic movement that only a real-time circuit solver is going to bring to the equation. So go try it on your own bass, your own 808, hear how it reacts differently each time, and that's what makes this thing really feel alive. So I hope you're having fun with it, and I'll see you in the next one.